All right, so I decided I may give this a second coat just because there was a spot where I didn't wipe the excess off quick enough as I was moving around the drum. I was trying to do it as I went. So I might give it another coat. I still want to keep it, you can kind of see it right there where it's a little darker on the drum. But I don't want to put it on too thick because I want that beautiful wood texture to show through on the birch. So we're gonna let this dry for a little bit and we'll come back. Okay, so Loretta was giving me a hard time yesterday because she said every time you've gone down to the shop to work, you've worn your paint clothes, except for the day that you actually were gonna use the stain. So I have my paint clothes on today. Stains looking really nice. Look at that. Ooh, it's beautiful, beautiful. I think I mentioned this already. This is the first time I've done anything like this. So kind of we're learning as we go here. And one of the things that I didn't think would happen is that I wouldn't drip anything on the inside of the shell. So I did. So though I wasn't planning on doing anything to the inside of the shell, I am gonna stain it. Because I'm type A, I'm gonna tape off a 3/4 inch on the inside of the reinforcement ring and then paint everything to that on each side, or stain everything to that on each side. Other thing I learned was that because I did this project over like 2 or 3 days, the tape, the painter's tape, kind of has left a sticky residue on the shell. So once we get done with everything else, we'll go ahead and we'll take some Goo Gone or some Goof Off or something and put it on a rag and just wipe that around there and get that off. So I'm gonna tape this up and then we'll get moving. We'll get moving. Okay, so as I finished taping up the inside of the snare, one of the things that I did, and a lot of you guys that do this stuff would be like, duh, but again, learning experience, so it's fun to learn new things and to try new things. As I was staining the outside of the shell, of course you get stain on your hands, and even though I had it taped and I had the tape tucked around, I was touching underneath the reinforcement hoop. So like, I was getting paint in there and then the drip. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the tape, the outside, and I'm gonna kind of tape a plastic bag around the outside of the shell that we stained so I don't get drips onto the stain that we've already done. All right, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be functional. I just took a kitchen trash bag, cut it in two, fold it in half, and then used the tape that I had used on the inside edge to hold it in place. All it has to do is protect the outside of the shell and allow me to access the inside. In the future, I will put one of these on the inside to protect me from any kind of drips or touching with my fingers as I rotate the drum. However, we're gonna stain the inside and we're gonna call it artistic choice. All right, so we got that stained, that's drying. I found it much more difficult to work on the inside, so next time we'll do this little contraption on the inside so I don't have to stain the inside. I like the way the inside of a snare looks when it's just stained or painted. But this will make it all look uniform, and we'll let this dry, and then we'll go from there. All right, everybody, we're just about ready to coat our snare drum with some clear coat. Before we do that, I know I mentioned to you guys that there's a little bit of residue around the top of the shell and bottom of the shell where I left the tape on it too long. So I'm just gonna take some Goo Gone, I'm gonna spray it on a part of this rag, and I'm just gonna go around it. I'm not gonna spray the drum, just gonna spray the rag and get some Goo Gone on to get the goo off. The directions say, for this Nunn wax water-based polyacrylic protective finish in clear satin, it says to shake vigorously for 2 minutes. Okay. Then, let me put my camera down for you guys. Oop. I've got a board backed up with my microfiber cloth. Start spraying the outside. We're gonna do from a distance a nice even coat. And I've also got this on. I got both doors open so the space is nice and ventilated. And let's do it. So if you're ever doing clear coat, the way I was doing it's okay to use the microfiber cloth on the board. Do not let it hang there to dry. It'll dry to the inside of whatever part of the shell is touching it, in this case the re-ring, or at least not all of it, but just a part of it. I try to use some Goo Gone to get that gone, to get that goo gone. That's why they call it that. Okay, so got the clear coat all done on the in and out of the drum. I have gone ahead here and I switched tapes. I did some research and everybody was saying that the original Scotch blue tape is the best stuff to use. It won't leave a residue on the surface. They said, I think the test was like 14 days and it didn't leave a residue. So I went and got some of that because I was really unhappy with the other stuff, and I am putting it, on the finish. So I want it to be not leaving a residue. So anyway, so I just went around in little pieces and I just marked the center point. You probably can't see from here in pencil because we're not going to write on the drum, everybody. And then I'm going to go around. I've got this little guide down here. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that. Show you how I've got this. I'll have to get it, maybe do some B-roll for you. But like this little piece of plastic that it's sitting on is a template. So we're doing a 10-lug snare drum. So there's all these little marks that are from center 336 degrees. I'm sorry. So I've got this where the snare wires are going to go. It's all lined up. And then I'm going to mark and use my T-square here, my T thing. That's the technical word for it. And I'll set this where the marks are and then mark. So I have my center mark and then I'll have my mark where the lugs need to go. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna start marking, and I'm gonna measure twice and drill once, right? Because you only get to drill once. All right, so here we go. We're all marked. Giving myself way too much headroom in the shot. We're all marked, and I'm gonna just go around one more time and verify, and then I'll find the intersection where the legs need to go, matches the center point, and that's where I'll drill. And I'll mark it, that's where I'll drill. Okay, so we are getting ready to drill. What I've done is, I don't care if I drill into my board here, but I didn't want to drill into the cloths and get any of that coming back through the wood. So I have set two of these up, so we can see this, where there's a space between there, so just the inside edge of the drum is touching that instead of the wood. And then I can move it around safely to my points where I need to drill and drill. So I have chosen the drill bit for, can't really see that, but getting it out of focus, but for the piece of hardware, so it matches with the space that has to go into the wood. So, all right, fingers crossed. So I was getting ready to drill, and I remember watching our David R do some drilling on a snare drum or on a drum shell, and I remembered a tip that he showed, and that's to go ahead and just take a screwdriver or something. I don't have a hammer down here with me, and so I got my knife and a drill bit, and just lightly score the wood so that when you go to drill, it's, the bit isn't trying to find its home. So we'll just go ahead and get these scored. And I'm not hitting them hard. So from the onset of this venture, I think I've been clear that I'm learning. So this is definitely a learning experience for me. So that said, I'm sure that some of you watching me drill were like, no! And I learned a very important lesson. So I was using the wrong type of drill bit, and I needed to have a block of wood behind it. If you've done woodwork, you know this. I did not know this. So I blew out the parts, splintered the back on the inside of the shell. And then on the front, because I wasn't using Brad point drill bit, I kind of pulled wood up from the front where I was drilling into on the outside of the shell. So just a big shout out to my buddy Kyle, who does some woodworking, and I kind of reached out to him, and I also reached out to R. David R. Check out his channel. I'll pop it up here. You probably already know who he is. And he was gracious enough to give me some pointers as well. So I'm going to show you what I've done. Now, I've already pulled the splintered wood off, okay? So on the outside of the shell, you can see what it did. And then on the inside of the shell, you can also see what it did. So what we're going to do on the outside and the inside is I'm going to take a fine grade sandpaper. I'm going to smooth this stuff out. Then we're going to take some wood filler, put that in, sand, dry it, let it sand, and we're going to go over this on the inside and outside with the finish once again. So if you've never done this kind of stuff before and you want to, make sure you get yourself a Brad point drill bit and a block of wood that you can put underneath when you drill, and that'll prevent that on the inside, and the Brad point will prevent that on the outside, inside, outside. I think I said it right. Anyway, so I basically made extra work for myself, but I wanted to have completely full disclosure with you, since this has been a learning experience. Maybe you can learn from my faux pas, my mistake, my boo-boo, yeah. So let's stand. I'm gonna take a damp rag and just kind of wipe this off, and I'm gonna apply some of this wonderful stainable wood filler by Minwax. The stain we used was Minwax, and the protectant we used was Minwax. Guess what? Not sponsored by them. That's just what I'm using. They don't pay me to say anything, so you can use whatever you want. That's just what we're using today. So put some, I'm gonna clean this, put some wood filler in, let it dry, we'll sand that off, and we'll stain it. All right, so our wood filler is dry. We are going to sand this off, and then maybe if we have time tonight, we'll paint it. And yes, it is night. Can you hear the crickets? So I've got it all sanded. I'm gonna take a damp rag. I'm just gonna kind of wipe it down. I've blown some of the dust off of it. I'm just gonna wipe it down with a damp rag, and we'll see where we're at. So because I didn't think I'd be able to tape this exactly off, we're just gonna go ahead and stain all of this. I've taped off the bearing edge, and I've kind of tucked the tape in, and I'm gonna be extra careful about dripping paint to the inside of the shell. Let's get you a better look here. All right, we'll start staining. So what I've done is after I've used some wood filler, which does not have grain in it, sanded that down, restained, sanded it down a little bit. I've decided what I've done is I decided to take the mistake and turn it into something. So I've turned it into, I've tried to make the drum look distressed. So the flaws play into part of the artwork of the finish. And I thought about this too, like, sometimes we feel pretty ugly. We feel distressed. We feel like we've made mistakes that we don't feel like can be redeemed, but that's not true at all. God says, "I'm making all things new." He makes something beautiful out of something that we think is not. And so I've kind of taken my mistakes, and I've sanded some of the finish thinner in places so that it just has this almost incomplete, raw, and distressed look. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm gonna mark and drill properly for the throw off and the butt plate, and we'll see what happens. All right, let's start putting on the hardware. Let's stop there for tonight. Tomorrow we'll get the heads and the rims on, and hope for the best. Hey, good morning. I'm ready to put the heads, rims, the snare wires on. Cup of Justice League, go. Anyway, so let's get that going. Okay, I just got the bottom head on. It's still real loose. I'm gonna just put a little pressure here on the head and try to stretch it out a bit. Right in the center. All right. We're gonna tighten it up. Then I'll use our little drum dial to get it. Okay, now I'm gonna put the this wonderful, beautiful 30-strand pure sound snare wire on the bottom. All right, we got the snare wires on. Now I'm going to put this Evans Genera Dry. Okay, everybody. So, basic rock EQ on that snare, a little bit of verb. I think it sounded pretty good, which I'm pretty happy about because at the end of the day, the drums got to sound good or it's garbage. So, check out my Star Wars mug. It changes when you put warm stuff in it. What? Okay, anyway, enough of that. So let's talk about some lessons learned along the way. As I close this out, if you're still with me, thank you very much for tolerating. There's probably moments where you're like, no, don't, Anyway, if you've done any kind of work like this before, I have not, so this was a brand new experience for me. I've been pretty transparent through the video about kind of the mistakes that I made. Two of the biggest mistakes were, number one, I was using the wrong drill bit on two levels. I was using one that was primarily made for metal, so it's more aggressive. And I was not using one that had a brad tip on the top. I did not have a block of wood behind. And then when I did go to drill other holes, I was trying to drill too big all at once instead of starting small. And the piece of wood I didn't have obviously didn't fit the concave nature of the inside of a drum shell. So I'm going to cut a piece for the next build. And so, and I'll show you too. You can see it. Of course, the drum looks really, really pretty, right? I bumped my tripod. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but you can see on the inside where I had blown out the wood and tried to use wood filler in there, which doesn't work because it didn't work at all because the grain of the wood is too specific. So, so I said, well, that's okay because this is the first one and this will be, a reminder. And I wrote on the inside, despise not small beginnings. I think that's in the Bible, but my mom always says it too. So, so I do that. And then I kind of went around and sanded some of the outside to kind of give it a little bit more of a weathered look. There was a problem with the machining on the inside. It's a three screw throw off, but the third screw didn't fit in, but the two hold it very, very, very securely. So instead of having to wait on a replacement part, we went ahead with that. In the future, I would send it back. All the other parts were good. The parts look really good. You guys, Precision Percussion is where I got the hardware from. The shell I got from Champagne Drums. You can find them on Instagram. The heads and the pure sound snare wires I got from Amazon. Well, that's actually, let's go back. The Evans Genera Dry I got from Amazon. This, at the beginning of the video, I said this was going to be an Evans 200 snare side head. I learned another valuable lesson. This is the Evans 200 snare side head. Obviously, the snare side head is thinner. This is very thin. You can put too much tension on it. I've never had that issue. So there we are. So I ordered instead of a 2 mil head, I ordered a 3 mil head from Sweetwater. Thank you, Joe Secu at Sweetwater. And thank you to my buddy Kyle, who's here in Brevard, and to R. David R. for being willing to let me reach out and ask a couple questions. So anyways, I'm debating on keeping this for sentimental value or trying to raffle it off as the very first in what'll be many, because I'm stating it out loud right now. This is going to become a thing that we do here in the Drumatic. We'll keep doing our drum covers because we love that so much and I love playing. Over time, our goal is to make building snare drums full-time income. There, I just said it out loud. Now it's a goal, not just a dream. At any rate, I'm thankful for my full-time job. I think most of us understand this, but it's not my passion, but I'm thankful for it. So anyway, so this is how it looks. You heard how it sounded. Obviously, again, I'm just full transparency here. Cosmetically, it's not perfect. Cosmetically, it's not perfect. The other things so I told you about the drill bits. That was the biggest mistake. Also, making sure you cover the inside of the shell when you go to do any kind of painting or staining on it, because you will drip. It's just nature of the beast. This is kind of an odd sized drum. It's 5 3/4. So for me and my newbie brain, it kind of made measuring a little tricky. And I did, on the top side, have to go back and order tension rods that were slightly longer than the ones I had originally ordered. It's minuscule. It's hard to really notice it when you're looking around the drum. This is a good, again, I don't know if I said this or not, 6-ply shell with 6-ply re-rings, birch. That's what this drum build was. I think the next one I'm going to do is going to be a 10-ply 6x14 maple is what we're going to do next time. And we're kind of going to maybe do something a little creative with, our goal is to do just colors and finishes that aren't normally out there. So at any rate, let me know what you think in the comments below. Try to think if there's anything else I wanted to tell you. Yeah, go 3 mil, don't over tighten your bottom head, it will break. It's crazy, I didn't know that. Just because I've never done it before. So anyway, so lesson learned. Also 10 lugs, so you have like more tuning variation that you can get out of this drum. Let's see here. Yeah, guys, thanks for sticking with me on all of my mistakes and learning. I think for our first build here in the Drumatic for Attic Custom Drums, this came out pretty darn good. So the next one will be better. We'll learn new lessons, and yeah, so I do appreciate you all taking the time to be here. Thanks. It's been a long video, I know, but we will see you next time.